Okay.
Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim. So, viewers, so we are here in the 21st day of Iran war. Not the war, we can say it's a specifically attack by Israel and the USA. So the word is talking about the different dimensions. Some is talking about the economic dimension, some is talking about the regional security. But there is one more very pertinent question, and that is the global order. Is the global order is going to change? For that purpose, we have invited a very important person, Dr. Andrey Kortunov. He is the ex-Director General, Russian International Affairs Council, but he has a very pertinent voice and a wise brain on the subject. He has been working on the Russian foreign policy for many years, and he engaged in many debates and for different platforms at the global level. So he has a very keen interest and the insight of the global order. Welcome to the show, Dr. Andrey Kantarov.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start. So, when we look at this war attack by Israel and the USA on Iran, what is the Russian position? How Russia look at that?
Well, definitely, this conflict presents a challenge to the Russian Federation. Some can say that Russia can gain, at least in terms of tactical gains. Indeed, higher oil prices allow Russia to get more money for the hydrocarbons that it exports. Moreover, we now see that the United States is ready to at least temporarily lift some of its economic sanctions on Russia in order to give Russia's oil and gas freer access to the global markets. So there are some benefits. However, these benefits cannot overshadow the challenges that Russia is likely to have if this conflict is to continue.
Mhm.
First of all, when we are talking about Iran, Iran is a strategic partner of the Russian Federation. Just
Mhm.
last year, Moscow and Tehran signed a new agreement on strategic partnership. And of course, there were and there still are expectations that the Russian Iranian economic relations uh, might evolve further. Right now, the trade between the two countries is not that great, but Iran is very instrumental in implementing some of Russia's multilateral economic projects. For instance, you take the so-called north-south transportation corridor that unites northern Russia with India through Iran and Pakistan. Of course, without Iran, this project cannot be fully implemented. We should also remember that Iran is a member to Russia's multilateral initiatives, international groupings which Russia promotes, such as BRICS and SCO.
SEO.
SCO. So, and moreover, Iran concluded a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. We should not forget about that.
Mhm.
So there are expectations that this relationship can grow and flourish and bring rewards to everybody engaged. Right now, many of these initiatives are under question. Politically, Russia should be concerned about potential instability in its close neighborhood.
Mhm.
Because if, God forbid, the Iranian political regime were to implode, that would have an immediate and very serious impact on neighboring regions, such as South Caucasus,
Mhm.
Central Asia, and definitely these regions are very important for the Russian Federation. So I think that Russia should be concerned about the developments that now take place between Iran, the United States, and Israel. It should be worried about potential implications of these developments, not to mention more general global ramifications, because indeed Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu directly challenge some of the fundamentals of international law. And again, this is something that will affect all of us, Russia including.
Okay, so when we move to as Iran is very important partner for Russia, and it has also signed a strategic partnership. So there is a lot of talk. The people are talking about, especially if we look around the social media. So they are saying so Russia is supporting Iran materially. So supplying there, somebody is saying supplying the weapons, and somebody saying supplying the information. A lot of speculations. So what do you think? Is Russia doing this, or Russia is planning in the long term?
Well, of course, we don't know a lot of details about the scale and the specific formats of the Russian-Iranian military technical cooperation. But this cooperation has started long before this current conflict, and it is likely to continue. Of course, one should keep in mind that it is practically impossible to have a direct impact on the conflict right now, because especially when we're talking about sophisticated modern pieces of military hardware, like air defenses, for example, uh, there should be some time for them to be delivered, to be deployed. Local personnel has to be trained. Maintenance should be provided. So I think that it is impossible to do it overnight. At the same time, and this is something that we should also keep in mind, Russia is in a contact with the United States, which tries to mediate the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And that means that Russia should be cautious not to burn bridges to the Trump administration. Even if we dislike very much what this administration is doing in the region, it is important to keep the United States engaged in the Russian-Ukrainian negotiations, because right now it is the only mediator, the only honest broker that we can see around. So for Moscow, it's not easy. It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. They need to demonstrate their position of principle. At the same time, they would like to preserve a degree of flexibility which is needed to find a solution to the uh, very important and very dramatic conflict with Ukraine.
Yes, definitely. With Ukraine also, if you want to help Iran to solve this problem through the negotiation, the dialogue, so you cannot become a partner. It's a party. If you become a party, then your position to mediate between Iran and US would be very difficult. I think that is very rational approach. Now, coming to our next question. So, what do you think the role Pakistan is playing at this point of the time on the diplomatic front to de-escalate the situation?
Well, I think that almost like Russia, Pakistan finds itself in a rather precarious situation, because, on the one hand, it has long-term historic ties to Iran. It has a long border with the Islamic Republic, and I'm sure that there is a lot of sympathy in Pakistan regarding the sufferings of the Iranian people. But at the same time, of course, Iran has links to the United States, and maybe more importantly, it
Pakistan.
has Pakistan has sorry Pakistan has links to the United States, and more importantly, it has links to a number of Arab Gulf states, uh, uh, namely Saudi Arabia. Of course, Pakistan has a treaty with Saudi Arabia, and in theory, Pakistan should come to the rescue of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia if its partner asks him to do so. So I think that the best option that has right now is to stay neutral, to call for a diplomatic solution, to avoid taking sides. We should also keep in mind that Pakistan has strong connections to China, which also condemned the US and Israeli actions regarding Iran. So I think that Pakistan might also render humanitarian assistance to Iran. And I think that one of the dangers that Pakistan might face if this conflict is to continue, is a flow of refugees from the Islamic
Mhm.
Republic. We know that Pakistan has already hosted a lot of people from Afghanistan. It is already a serious burden on the Pakistani
But
state.
most of them
If
Pakistan has sent back. The Afghanistan side,
oh,
Pakistan have sent back them now.
yeah, but still, this is something that can potentially destabilize the political situation in Pakistan, and of course, it is not an interest of Pakistan to see any implosion of the political regime in Iran. So, from this viewpoint, I think that we are on the same page.
We're on the same page, and maybe you have seen the recently 3 4 days back, the Iranian foreign minister, he sent a
Hmm.
tweet, so where he thanks Pakistan. So the Pakistan is
Hmm.
support at all
Yeah.
forum.
That's
So
right.
it means
That's
the
right. I think that,
Pakistan.
yeah, I think that for Iran it is very important to have a strong rear country that Iran can rely on, given the current very difficult situation on the western border of the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, understand me, Brian. That is very important point you have made. That is not in a discussion. So those Iran must have some country on its back, so where they can go back. Definitely, if there are some God forbid, if there are some refugees, so people they have to displace, that will be a very tricky situation. So they must have those relation where they can rely in the long term. Now, coming to our fundamental question for today's discussion, the global order we have seen. So there are voices for the many years. So global order is changing, the global order is reshaping. And when the President Xi Jinping visited Russia, so when he told to the President Putin, so we are going through the times of centuries, changes in a century time. So how do you see? So this conflict will have impact on the global order. Either it will stalemate the global order, or it will reverse the changes, or it will accelerate the changes. The three dimensions.
Well, let me say that what we see right now, in my view, are two parallel trends. On the one hand, we observe a very rapid disintegration of the old world order.
Mhm,
On the other hand, we can see some initial uh, uh, signs of a new world order emerging. I think that this conflict definitely accelerates the disintegration of the old order.
mhm,
But I'm not sure that this conflict might be very instrumental in building the new world order. And I would say even more that, in my view, President Trump, is about destruction more than about creation.
mhm,
He is strong in accelerating this decline and demise of the
mhm,
old rules of the game, but his attempts to start building a new order are much less convincing. He
mhm,
talks about the Board of Peace or new arrangements in the NATO alliance, but these initiatives are not very convincing in terms of the sustainability. And that means that the New World Order should not be delegated to the United States, that new
And
centers
there
of
is the
power.
question. There is the question. So people are not expecting the USA or the West will build a new global order. So people are looking towards the global south and specifically China and Russia. So will China and Russia take a lead?
Well, I hope so. I think that both nations are now distracted. They have to deal with many challenges of their domestic development. Plus, they have immediate foreign policy uh, challenges that they have to face. Russia deals with Ukraine. Uh, for China, I think priority number one is still the national reunification with the island of Taiwan. But gradually, these two nations not on their own, but together with other emerging centers of power, should take more responsibility. And we can see, some trends in this direction if you look at the multilateral groupings that we have already mentioned, like SCO and BRICS. I think these are the seeds of the new world order, or if you wish, a kind of lab to test new approaches and new mechanisms that might contribute to this new world order emerging. These are just very few steps, and I'm particularly concerned about this gray area. If the old world order is completely destroyed and the new one is not yet built, then we have to go through a very challenging and very difficult period of time when the old rules of the game are no longer operational and the new rules of the game are not yet established. I think that constitutes a very serious risks for the system and also for individual member states as well.
In this context, if you look at, again coming back to the Pakistan, because my more audience is from Pakistan, how you see the Pakistan role in the new global order? So where Pakistan stands?
Well, definitely, Pakistan is a rising power. It rises demographically, economically, it rises also geopolitically, and its impact on the immediate neighborhood, but also on the global agenda, is doomed to grow over time. So it would be very important for Pakistan to gradually acquire more responsibility for the future of South Asia, but also for the future of the Eurasian continent and the global system of international relations. So far, I think Pakistan has been able to balance its foreign policy goals without becoming a hostage to any particular coalition or any particular group of nations. It would be important to remain independent and to preserve the national sovereignty of Pakistan. I would also say that, at least in my view, a lot will depend on how Pakistan manages its relations with the great neighbor in the south, with India, because the problems, territorial problems, border clashes between Pakistan and India weaken both sides and prevent them from playing a more active role in the international relations in Asia, but at the global scale as well.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. Where we have the opportunity, but we also have to sort out our challenges. I think here the China, Pakistan, and Russia can also work together, being a close partner with the China, and now that our friendship is also strengthening with the Russia. So the countries can also work together to sort out our regional challenges. But if you, my last question for you today, for the today podcast is, if we look at the current situation. So, what do you see the conflict, the war of Iran? Will it continue, or will it stop in coming days? When, if it will stop, when you foresee it can stop?
Well, I think that, like all of us, I'm somewhat biased here, and I would like this conflict to stop as soon as possible. But as a scholar, I don't think that I can be too optimistic because both sides took very radical positions.
Mhm.
It seems that the Trump administration, maybe under the influence of the Israeli leadership, believes in a regime change in Iran. And maybe they believe that they can simply decapitate the Iranian leadership and the opposition in the country will go to streets and will somehow, have a revolution there. It is not likely to happen. I don't think that a regime change is something which is uh, which is doable and feasible at this stage. At the same time, if you look at the Iranian position, they also want to defeat the United States. They want to push the United States, not only from the Islamic Republic itself, but from the Middle East region. The United States to withdraw militarily, including the U.S. military bases in the region. They want the United States to pay reparations, and I think that it is very hard to imagine that the Trump administration can accept these terms. So I think that the best we can count on right now is some degree of de-escalation, that the conflict might start exhausting itself, because there are certain limitations on both sides, including limitations on the munitions that they can use, on the personnel, on the specific goals that they might set for themselves. So I think that we can see a de facto de-escalation without a political settlement. Again, I would be happy to be wrong and to see a political settlement before too long, but I'm afraid that it will take some time before the two sides can get back to the negotiating table and before they can agree on a compromise settlement which will be less than ideal for both of them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andrew Kortunov. We have a wonderful discussion with you. And your point of view and your understanding of the conflict and the situation also helped me to clarify some things and some points. No, no, it's a
You're
very
welcome.
true. It's not like that I'm hosting you, especially on the global order. So if there is a no order and the old order is gone, so what will happen? That is very chaotic. That would be very chaotic situation. And
Yeah,
most of the people don't think about what that. They are just talking about loudly and when they are shouting like that, new global order, new global order, but they don't understand intimacies of the orders. And definitely we cannot you can say the if we are building the new global order, so we cannot say like that, so the old members like the West or the US will be out of that order. They will also be very much there, and we also have to find a place for them what role they can play. So
absolutely.
that's why President Xi Jinping and President Putin, they always talk about the multipolar. They're not saying the unipolar. So I think there's some very few things which I also, and these things will also help me to understand and clarify my thoughts. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Andrew Kartunov. We could talk more, but due to a time constraint, we have to cut here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.